everybody. Welcome. We're hoping that nothing goes wrong this time. No glitches, everything should work. We upgraded our internet. We got shades for the windows so you don't see cars going by. The only thing is that I'm hearing myself, which is very distracting. But otherwise, I think we're good to go. So we're live on Instagram, we're live on Facebook. Welcome. So I'm standing in the corner because I'm starting at the stove here and then I'm gonna move back over. But what I wanted to tell you guys is that I'm making the probiotic elderberry fruit snacks from Eat What You Love today. We were back in school for like 2 days and I got a cold, my kids got a cold, and so I'm wanting to have these stocked and ready to go so that I can be feeding them to my children every day. And with all of the other things we do, hopefully we can avoid a bad cold and flu season because we had a really bad one last year. So I love these. We keep them all the time. My kids love them. They don't really want to take elderberry syrup. They've just tried a million times and they've just never really loved it. Despite me doing it homemade with honey or maple syrup and then also buying it, I just can't get them to do it. So I make these, they love them, and they take them, and that's the key. Before we get started, I just want to remind you guys, just in a couple of days, we're almost to September, which is crazy. And that means that our September book club is going to start. So we have Instant Pot has donated a few machines as our gifts this time. And then of course, you know, my 4 books. So this time around, I kind of mentioned it last time. We'll give you guys more details on September 1st, but all 4 of my books can be used this time in book club. The only stipulation is that the recipe that you post has to be Whole30 compliant. So, I mean, you've got hundreds to pick from my books, and if you also want to take something that isn't Whole30 compliant and transform it to be Whole30 compliant, like that would be really fun for people to read about how you did that. So you can always put that in your copy or your comments, you know, when you post your photo. So we'll get there with better instructions as we get closer. Just to remind you guys, of course, we're live like every Tuesday. So please feel free to ask any questions and I can answer them as much as possible. And then I can always go back through and answer some later. So I have, and I'm gonna show you guys in a minute, but I've been simmering my elderberries for about an hour in water. And so essentially this part of the process is just making elderberry syrup, except for that we do add our sweetener later. So I do get asked a lot if you can just use elderberry syrup. So, I mean, yes, you can. I would say it's probably about, so this simmered down to a little less than a half a cup. It's probably like a 1/3 cup. And so if you were to use syrup, that means that the sweetener is already added, which will make it also a little bit thicker. So I would start with about a half a cup and kind of see if your gummies end up solidifying with that gelatin to liquid ratio. And if they do, then you're probably good to go. The only thing I would say to beware of is just the type of sweetener that's in a lot of the store-bought elderberry syrups. Is a lot of time it is cane sugar. So, I mean, I would try to find one that's honey or maple syrup. Before I continue, are we working on all sides of everywhere?
So far we have people on Facebook saying the sound is great.
Woo!
No echo.
Yay!
It does seem to be skipping a little bit, but so far,
okay.
people are okay.
Okay, great. The skipping seems to be the problem. But like I said, we upgraded internet in the new office, so hopefully it'll work. Okay, so I've strained out all of the elderberries. I'm just gonna push just to make sure that I have all of the good stuff, all the liquid out of there. And then I'm gonna return that to my pan. And you can buy dried elderberries. I buy them in bulk. Like it's a couple pound bag from Star West Botanicals. They're organic. It's my favorite brand. I get them on Amazon. I can show you guys later in stories the bag and what it looks like. So this is pomegranate concentrate. I just like it because it makes them a little bit sour and tart. And then unfiltered, unsweetened apple juice and a little bit of lemon.
Our first question, we have someone on Instagram wondering, what are the health benefits of elderberry?
So it's really good for your immune system and it can really help fight off colds and flus. I think I have a blog post, and if not, I love my friend Wellness Mama, Katie over at Wellness Mama. She always explains those things really well and has a homemade elderberry syrup on her website too, so you can always go look there if you really want to read into it. So what I just did was sprinkled my gelatin powder. You want unflavored just plain grass-fed gelatin powder, and you just need to sprinkle it over the juice and let it sit for a minute so that it starts to bloom or absorb some of the liquid. And that will help it just disintegrate and melt down into the juice as we turn back on the heat. So really quickly, before I come over here, because I'll turn this back on, but these are my elderberries. I mean, they kind of look like little black peppercorns. If you have access to fresh elderberries, that's totally fine as well. But I keep these, and if you package them up really well, they'll keep in your pantry for a really long time. I mean, I think we've had ours probably for a year. I'm sure I know spices they usually say to get rid of after 6 months or so, but they've been perfectly fine for us. So that's what they look like if you're not familiar with them. I'm gonna skip ahead just a little bit and put this just because otherwise you guys are going to be sitting and waiting for 5 minutes. But I can answer some questions while this starts to melt down. Basically, gelatin will melt down with any amount of heat. It does help to bloom it just so it doesn't clump, but it will work even if you don't.
We have some people wondering if there are any other uses for the dried elderberries.
I mean, I don't know anything besides elderberry syrup and these. I am sure somebody out there on the web has created a recipe for something else, but I personally haven't done it. I mean, you could put elderberry syrup into anything you want, though. I mean, I could see it being used like on top of yogurt if you wanted, or into a smoothie. The gummies are fun for kids, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of got a pretty tart flavor, so you're definitely going to want to do it with something that's somewhat sweetened. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's other uses for it.
We also have some people wondering if you could possibly freeze the elderberries to preserve them longer.
Great question. I would imagine so. I've never done it. They seem to do fine in just a cool, dry pantry in like a resealable container. So I'm not sure. I don't think there would be anything that it would do to them. I mean, yeah, I would think that's probably fine. So I just want to make sure that all of my gelatin is absorbed, because if it's not, then your gummies won't set up. So make sure there's no clumps, make sure there's not like a bunch of it stuck to the side, but it does melt down pretty quick, which you can already see. And I just use a whisk just to make sure that there's no clumps. It's kind of gross to bite into a big chunk of gelatin, honestly. Your kids probably won't be very stoked about it. So all right, we're gonna move back over here and finish up.
We also have some people saying that they don't eat beef or pork.
Yes.
So in that instance, what could they use as a binder instead of gelatin?
So I haven't specifically tried it with this recipe. First of all, there is sometimes there's like a fish gelatin that you can buy. I know there's a lot of brands out there that do it because it's kosher, so you can do that, you can try that. And then the other alternative would be agar powder or agar powder. It's made from seaweed. Definitely make sure you do the powder and not the sheets. I used it in the past for like puddings and things like that. I don't think get quite as solid as gelatin, but definitely you can try it. If it's the powder, you should be able to substitute it in 1-for-1. Okay, so I wanted to say a little note about probiotics because I've gotten a few questions about this, and there's a note in the book that says, this is actually I think it might be for the yogurt and these. It says see resources, page 319. However, that's kind of a typo because there's actually nothing about probiotics on page 319. This happens sometimes in publishing. So I get people asking a lot just like which brand I use. I mean, it very clearly states 50 billion IU, dairy-free and gluten-free, but this is the one that you can find at most health food stores, most, like drugstores. It's Ultimate Flora Probiotic by Renew Life. It's gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, corn-free. It's definitely the cleanest that you can buy just kind of over the counter. And soy-free too. So I like this one. This is what I use when I make yogurt. This is what I use when I make these. You can keep them in your fridge for a long time. Like this doesn't expire for another 2 years almost. Next thing about the probiotics, and this is the same for if you're doing yogurt or anything like that, just grab this, is you just don't want your liquid to be too hot. And that's kind of the same thing for this. We use a raw honey in here, and raw honey has a lot of medicinal benefits. And so you definitely want everything to be slightly cooled before adding these next two elements. You can just leave it for a couple minutes, but the only trick is that if it really cools, like don't put it in the refrigerator because your gelatin will start to set up. And if that happens, it's not a big deal. Just warm it over low heat until it starts to get back to a liquid state, and then you should be fine.
All right, we have another question that's a little bit off topic.
Okay.
Close to my heart. Other than homemade ice cream, what is the purest non-dairy brand of ice cream you could buy, or your favorite?
So the purest is Vixen Kitchen. It is the only one that I've found on the market that actually is like 100% paleo friendly, but it's also like $12 for a pint and it's not sold everywhere. It's delicious. The other, I would say, I mean, kind of next in line, dairy free. I was gonna say I have a goat milk one that I really like. That's pretty clean. But dairy free, I would actually say, this is a good question. I'm trying to like think of the ingredients in my head. I think I would have to say Nadamu would be probably the next cleanest. They do use refined cane sugar, but they don't have as many gums and fillers and things in there, so that would probably be the next. Now, if we're talking just what's the most delicious and the most creamy, I actually think the So Delicious cashew milk ice creams are the closest to real ice cream in terms of the texture, but they definitely do have a few gums and things in them. So, and definitely refined cane sugar as well. I'm trying to think if there's one other one. The New Barn, probably. I'm always a little disappointed when I flip those containers because they're milk. They're like almond milk is so easy and clean in terms of ingredients, and then there's definitely a few extra things in the ice cream that I'd prefer not to have in there, but that's another good one as well. That was a lot of answers, but those are just some to choose from because not everywhere has, you know, all of the same brands. So see what you have available. Okay, so I just put our probiotic capsule in. I'm just gonna whisk that up to make sure it's all in there and broken up. And then that's it. It's kind of easy. Yeah, I mean, it's really easy, honestly. So if you do substitute in elderberry syrup, like I said, for that half cup amount, you would omit the water, and then you would also omit, obviously, the elderberries, and I would omit the honey as well. You can add a little honey if you taste it at the end and you just don't feel like it's sweet enough. But really, I mean, I think making it like this, you know exactly what's going into it, and obviously this is the way I tested it. So if you want it to be foolproof, I would just do it this way. It's really easy. And then you're staying away from any added sugars.
So another question for you. We have some people saying, what if you're allergic to honey? What else could you use? And then also some people wondering if you could use Manuka honey.
Yeah.
And if so, is there a specific tip for that?
Same, I mean, you could just do the same thing for Manuka. That's totally fine. I mean, again, I would, especially with Manuka, because it's so expensive and it's really good for you, I would definitely make sure that everything is cooled down enough to add it. In terms of like temperature-wise, if you don't have a candy thermometer, I mean, do the like baby bottle test on your wrist. If it doesn't sting, but it's still warm to the touch, then you're probably fine. And then if you don't like honey or you're allergic to honey, you could definitely use maple syrup as well. Okay, so my little silicone mold came with this, which is perfect. You can totally use a turkey baster as well. But I've got, I mean, the Lego ones are my kids' favorite. Actually, a lot of you guys asked when we put out the lunchbox PDF what those were in the little lunchbox, and it's these. Whoop. So they're like little Lego men, and then the other ones are a combination of penguins, monkeys, lions, little bears, and little worms, but my kids love these. They're their favorite. And they fit perfectly in like the planet box little square in the middle as kind of like a little treat. Okay, so this is just kind of a tedious process. If you don't have one of these little guys, a turkey baster, I might have already said that, but that works really well. If you have like a measuring cup with a small little spout, that could work as well. You just, you know, I mean, they fill up pretty quickly, so it can be very messy if you're not careful. But the good thing is that it solidifies so quickly when you put it into the refrigerator that you can just peel off any drops that you got on the outside and eat those too. And then just because nobody's asked yet, but we get this question a lot as well, is serving size. I get asked a lot about how much people, like how much you should give your kids a day and things like that. I mean, I think it depends on how old and the weight and everything, and that's why we didn't put a serving size in. But if you look at elderberry syrup type serving sizes, it's, a couple tablespoons or so a day. So I think 3 to 4 is fine. They're not that sweet, which is great. And yeah, but I mean, I think that would be enough to get kind of the benefits of it. I obviously think probably doing straight elderberry syrup is going to be more effective because this has juice and extra honey and stuff like that. But this is the way that I get my kids to take it. And I like that they're getting probiotics too. So I give them a probiotic supplement as well, but it's just kind of nice to know that they've got like a double added benefit.
And we also have some people wondering, is this recipe only available in the book or is it elsewhere?
So it was originally only in the book, but then we shared it on my blog. So you can get on to againstallgrain.com and just search for them and they'll be on there. And then we can also share the link in the comments for you guys too. All right, that's it. I'm not gonna make you guys sit here and watch me finish filling these, but I will come back on later, and probably not live, but I'll come back on later and show you guys what they look like. Let me just show you I dropped my little thing in there, but let me just show you one more time. They're so cute, depending on the molds. And I just got both of those molds, I got them on Amazon, so you could totally order them and probably have them at your house by tomorrow. But yeah, in Eat What You Love, you can search the recipe, just search for elderberry gummies and on my blog, and it should come right up for you guys. So hopefully you give them a shot, and I'll show the finished product to you guys a little bit later. Okay, I'm glad everything worked this time. See you next Tuesday, 10 a.m. Pacific.